A little glitch. Hello, hello, and welcome everybody to Girl Day Smith with Simplicity by Day. Thank you for joining us. We had a little technical difficulties, but we're getting started. And it's all good. Spring break, you know how it is. I am so excited today because I am welcoming someone that I truly admire. This Houston small business market. Jen Hernandez. I'm going to bring her up to the stage in just a minute. But Jen and I, we met through networking. Me and my husband were looking to refinance when it was like really good a couple years ago. And I reached out to someone who I knew everyone in Houston. And Jen, she told me Jen will take care of me. And so, long story short, I can go with Jen for my refi, but it was all good. We made a connection, and we eventually were in the same network groups. So much so that Jen hired me to help her with organizing and transitioning her office. And now we're connected so many ways. We share the same mentor. Jen is now an author through that. And she's someone that I truly look up to because all she does in the community and how she just shares the love. And so I'm going to welcome Jen to the stage. Hey, Jen.
Hey, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, cool. We were having technical difficulties. Thanks for having me on, and I'm so excited about the podcast.
Yes, so Jen will be our guest on the Modern Mompreneur podcast this upcoming Friday. So be sure to tune in. You guys will see all the publicity around that. And her story is so unique because she is, okay, so let me just give you a little background. Jen has 30 years in the mortgage lending field. So she is like truly an expert. But beyond that, what I love about her, she's an educator. Like she devotes so much of her time to like telling us how to navigate this process of buying a home, mortgages, mortgage rates, all the things. Additionally, because she's so successful as a business owner, she tells you how to win in business because she's lived it, you know? And so she makes it fun. Like this sounds so boring, but not when you listen to Jen. Her personality is so magnetic. She just is fun. She's a connector. She's a supporter. She's family oriented. Her family is totally in her business. Her baby brother, which I think is funny, because he's like big guy.
My big baby brother, yeah.
Business with her for over 20 years, but her husband and her kids, I mean, she's just like a family woman, and she's always committed to getting better. She'll say she's at a conference somewhere, learning this and learning that, and just always improving. So that's Jen in a nutshell. But what I wanted to really talk about today is something that happened with her in November. Jen wrote her first book, Big Hug, Big Kiss.
Yeah.
With her years of experience, you think you talk about a mortgage book. But no, this is a homage to her late aunt who inspired her to be someone who is basically a networking magnet, right? Someone who draws people to her and in return she gives so much. And so I'm going to let you, Jen, tell us about your Aunt Marianne and why this became your motivation for your first book.
Yeah, so Aunt Marianne was the first woman vice president for a big oil company back in the 80s when it was definitely a man's world. Coastal Corp. She worked her way up. She did not go to college. She started as a secretary and she just worked her way up in the ranks. She became the first woman VP and also the first woman elected as a director of the Mercantile Exchange. So that was like a big deal back in the 80s. But I was young. I was in my teens then. I didn't understand until later. But she hired me for my first job at 12, cleaning her condo on the weekends, $40. It was a fortune for a 12-year-old. But I really, as I got older, she would drag me along, hey, come to this dinner with me and my peeps, at Ruth Chris Steakhouse was her hangout. And I just saw how she really connected with people and she was just so genuine and just really listened to them. And, I learned from that. I really learned how to talk to people. So she was a big influence on me, big. And so her Mercantile Exchange trader badge which I still have to this day. Actually, it's in my room right now.
Yeah.
Is BHBK, Big Hug, Big Kiss, because that's how people knew her. Because every time she saw people, like, she didn't care, man, woman, whatever, she was like, big hug, big kiss, come here. And she was just
Mhm.
very personable, and people really felt connected to her. So that's
Yeah.
why I named it Big Hug, Big Kiss. So that's where it came
Yeah.
from.
I love it. And this is a short 44-page book packed with just real life stuff. I mean, it has the beautiful essence of your aunt, and you can tell that. You talk very candidly about your peaks and your valleys, and how you hit rock bottom, how you were given opportunities and like took advantage of them. You had a great boss, you were able to, navigate this world of real estate, and you like did things consistently and simplified it, and it created success for you in a big way. One thing I love is how you talked about, speaking of consistency, and how I feel like the most successful people, they really do have a simple strategy. Like, it ain't that hard. It's not that hard. And if you just do things consistently, that yields such a fortune for you. So tell me about, I know you talk about in your chapters, what were some things you did that was consistent and simple that led to your success?
About 18 years ago, so I've been doing this 28. So maybe 10 years into my career, I started to, things got more automated. When I was first in, it was all handwritten and whatever. So in the beginning, it was, in the 90s, it was networking and face to face and handwritten notes. And I mean, and phone calls, that's like all there was. But as things developed, in the early 2000s, I started to send this email drip campaign to realtors, are a big source of my business, because they have connections to home buyers, right, that are buying homes, and I do financing. So I started this email every Friday to realtors called Interest Rate Update. And I would kind of write a little, almost like what we now call as a blog. Back then, we didn't call it a blog; we just called it an email. That
Yeah.
that was just telling them something personal about me, just something about my kids usually, or, something little. And then I would tie it into business. And so every Friday, the key, every Friday around 4 p.m. with the same title in the subject line, because even now, you're cruising through email and you're looking at the subject and you're either delete or flag. Like, that's the bottom line. So I consistently have maintained this list. And now, I mean, I'm going on about 18-ish, maybe 20 now years of an email that goes out to people. Obviously, the list ebbs and flows, right? But the point is I send something consistent to my referral base that's of value. It's not just a junky little canned email. Like, I actually write it myself, and I deliver messages about what's going on that's important to them. So I think
Yeah.
that one thing has been honestly my secret weapon. Like, it's helped me keep in touch with people with
Yeah.
valuable information that they can use to better their business. So that's one of the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, and you have that in here. One of your chapters is called the secret sauce. That's really what it is. So if you're, a mompreneur, just professional, and you're like, okay, how do I? It's not going to come quickly. I mean, it can, because you had success months after going to one of your coaching, and they taught you how to do things differently. But the success you have now, it took 18, 20, 28 years to
No,
build.
it didn't start. I mean, let me
Yeah.
clarify, 'cause I don't want people watching this to think, oh my God, it's going to take me a gazillion years to get. No, I started seeing benefit almost immediately. When you do something consistently, I would say for 4, 5, 6 months, that's when it started to click. And I've just maintained doing it even after all these years, because it works. And so I just, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that people knew, like, hey, I don't have to do this 18 years. Like, you can build this consistency immediately in everything that you do. And that's really what I want business people, whether you're entrepreneur or a corporatepreneur, like, I just want you to understand, whatever you're doing, when you do it consistently, it will work. It
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. I believe that. And so, just a month of doing something consistently, serving people, because I know it came from a heart of service. I feel like that's one of your hallmark characteristics. It's like you are service driven. You want to give people the best results. You want to make sure that you show up authentically. I love the fact that you weaved in your family. Like, I love reading emails that give a personal touch. Like, tell me about what's really going on, your family. And you do that so masterfully. Like, you do have a little bit of things, it connects us. I feel like I know your kids. I know you got what they got going on with sports and cheerleading. I know you're going and doing this. And Fernando, I feel like I know him, and Kenny. So it's so fun to see that. And then you definitely tie it to a business related topic, which I love because it gives you like a way to remember that tip through a story. So I do love that. Another thing that you talked about with this book is all about being a referral magnet and networking. So networking gets a bad rap because people think, oh, I don't, especially if you're an introvert, I don't want to go out and meet people, or it's a waste of time. But we met through networking.
Yeah, we did.
Look where we are now. We're like connected.
Yeah.
You talk about that extensively in your book. So what have you felt like has worked for you in networking? How you've been able to do it and make it successful for you in business?
I think that in anything that you're doing, any business, you just have to show up, even when you don't feel like it. And when you're putting yourself out there, and I wouldn't say go to networking events all week. Like, you need to pick one or two. Like, you can't over focus, right? Well, if you're in more than one or two, you can't focus on anything. So pick something where you feel a connection to the people that's related to where you're going in your business, and go and show up. You have to show up and put yourself in the room consistently. Like, you can't just go to one networking event and say, oh, okay, I got a bunch of business cards. Now I'm gonna, So I think the important part after networking and meeting people is having something of yours that you can plug them into. So for me, if it's a realtor, I'm plugging them into the Friday interest rate update that goes out every Friday, 4:00, with the same title. If they're a business person, like you're on my weekly Tuesday tip. So I do a video, which is kind of a little coaching business nugget of just a business lesson, just one lesson every week. This week is about your ideal client. So get it. And it's just a nugget, right? And so that's something that for business people in general, that I'll send to them. So you've got to have something of value to plug people into on a consistent basis. Because if you just meet them at a networking event and then you don't plug them in, nothing is going to happen. So I think the follow-up, and it's never too late to follow up. We get busy. It's been a week. It's been two. I actually went to a networking event with a bunch of realtors a couple weeks ago, and it's been a couple weeks. And in my head, I'm like, Jennifer, you're such a ditz. Like, you didn't follow up the day after, right? Well, I'm going to still follow up. I'm going to still follow up, give something of value. I'll call everybody on the list and just say hi. And it's never too late. It is never too late, because 2 weeks feels like yesterday, right? And so I would say that is something consistent to plug them into, that you can follow up with value, and then you'll ingrain them. You'll see them next time, or you'll call them for a face-to-face meeting on Zoom or in person to dig more into how your businesses can benefit each other. So that's something that I've always done, is be the connector, and how can I help people first, and then eventually it'll probably help me. But I'm more concentrated on, what can I do for day? Like, what can I do for you to make you successful? And I just know that if it's meant to be someday, into where it'll come back to me. I don't think of it that way. Like, oh, if I do something for her, I have to get something back equally in return. Like, I just don't, my mindset is not wired that way. So I worry more on giving to others, and just the cards are going to fall where they fall, and in return, I usually end up getting, definitely things back, and all kinds of mysterious ways.
That's the essence of Big Hug, Big Kiss, because it's just giving. It's just giving. She saw something in you. She wanted to help you. She kind of became your mentor, whether she talked to you about business or you saw what she was doing by example, and she pioneered things, and that became a part of your style too. I love when you talk about like having some sort of system, because I'm all about systems. But when you go to a networking event and you get a handful of business cards, there are so many tools you can implement that make it so easy for you to follow up, because the funds are in the follow up. Whether that's scanning something and put it in your CRM, your cut client relationship management tool, or maybe if you talked about getting the right people in your team, you have a VA or an assistant, you can hand
Mhm.
that off to and say, hey, can you sort these? Can you email these? Put them in your system. But then I feel like a lot of times you just have to have those operations or systems in place in order to have that consistency. So if you feel like you got 100 things going on as an entrepreneur and managing that is just seems overwhelming, take Jen's advice on having some sort of consistency, and it just becomes like a part of your habits. Like, you're going to put something out every Friday at 4. So you're probably thinking about what the topics are going to be and who
I'm
needs to
already thinking about it now on
and
Tuesday. I'm already thinking.
yes,
Yeah.
and it just becomes like, I feel like once you do that, it becomes habitual and you're always getting ideas, and people may even suggest things like, Jen, why don't you talk about this?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're like, "Why didn't you where are your kids? Why don't you write something about your kids?" I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'll do it next week," you know?
Yeah.
So,
Love
yeah.
that. Uh,
Mhm.
you have a chapter in here because you talked a lot about when SHIT hit the fan. I don't know if I can say that on LinkedIn, but I've said it. It was your rock bottom, and people often look at your success and they don't know what it took to get you there. And
Mhm.
so would you say that that is a normal part of entrepreneurship? And what advice would you give someone who is maybe in there, or that's something that they may have to go through in order to keep that consistency, and keep going even though things are hard?
I think that throughout life, in anything, you're gonna go through turbulent times. You can call it rock bottom, you can call it a storm. You're either in a storm, headed for a storm, or leaving a storm. And I think that storms are going to come at all times. So I think it's really important to concentrate on your support network.
Mhm.
Back when I hit the rock bottom, it was a financial thing. I didn't have much savings. And then the market just went crazy and I had a credit card debt. And, because I'd not made some good choices about money prior, I mean, I had to learn new ways, right? So that was a major storm for me, that my network wasn't strong and I didn't do coaching at that time. But after that happened, I sought help, I sought coaching. And since then, my network and my accessibility, I'm now saved and fine for when other things hit rock bottom. Like, I'm not going to hit rock bottom anymore because I have a backup plan, right? And coaching got me through that. So one of the chapters in the book is about I wish I'd gotten a coach way back early in my career, but I didn't. So it happened like, 10 or 12 years in. But since then, you never look back, and now you realize the power of investing in yourself and making sure that you have a solid foundation, because the storms are going to come. They're just shorter in nature,
Mhm.
because I now have the confidence and I have the network and I have the backing to where when I'm struggling, I'm just a phone call away from someone that I have access to, um, whether I pay them or not. Like, some of the things I have are people that I pay to help me, right? But I have a stronger foundation because I became coachable. I knew that I couldn't do it on my own. And I would say that in the early part of my career, I was really kind of a solo, like just me. And I
Mhm.
was digging myself
Mhm.
out of storms when I could have been collaborating with other people, and I just didn't have that network. I don't know if that makes sense, but I
No,
would say that if you find yourself in it alone and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm digging out of myself alone on this," just know, I mean, that, if you don't have the money to pay for people to help you, then in the beginning, you're going to have to get some help for free somehow. You need to ask questions, you need to ask people, you need to not be afraid to say, "Hey, I need help right now." There's free resources within every city for entrepreneurs, and help to learn how to bookkeep and help to learn how to do this. And um, but I hope that answers your question. I think that storms will come no matter what. You just have to make sure that you know where you need to go when they happen.
yeah, no, that
But
does make sense.
shorter.
It's gonna happen. So why
Yeah.
not prepare yourself for that, not having a spirit of like worry, but it's more about being strategic and being smart and like knowing
Mhm.
how to navigate that. One of the times we talk about getting your A team together, which could be, I love that you say this, like help in the house, especially as a mompreneur, you know,
Yeah.
having people come to help you clean or cook or pick your kids up or whatever, as well as on the business side, having an executive assistant, having a coach, having a financial advisor. You are an expert at what you're an expert at. And that doesn't mean that you
Mhm.
need to do, but that doesn't mean you need to do everything else. Give people the opportunity to be in their zone of genius and support you. So I love that you talk about that. And then you talk so candidly about Fernando. Um, your hubby, and how he was a huge wingman, as you said, and support during all of this, which I love because as a female entrepreneur, a boss, in business, um, you've shown that sometimes these roles are different, and your husband stepped into that and supported you, and so I look at him as somebody who's really pioneered what that looks like and like taking on some of the home responsibilities. And so, but you give him all the credit. You're like, I wouldn't have been here without Fernando, and
Yeah,
he holds me down.
completely.
I love that. I love that. So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think women, I think our natural instinct is to just take charge and do things and just get it done. I
Mhm.
think it's really hard. I know for me to ask for help. And when I talk to my women friends, they're like, yeah, you got me. We don't sit around. We just take action and get it done. And I think it's hard to delegate. I mean, delegating is hard. I still hoard stuff. Kenny's like, Jennifer, why didn't you delegate this to me 3 days ago before it became urgent? I'm like, oh, I knew you were busy. And so I'm definitely not picture perfect. And it's just a learning lesson every day. But I think that for the most part, what women need to realize is that we do need help and we need, sometimes it's right in front of us. We just have to ask for it. So I was lucky enough to identify, I have my wingman at work and yes, I have my wingman at home. Um, and it really does work to make sure you have that support set up. So
Yeah, it does. I love it. I love it. So Loan with Jen is your company for, just helping people navigate this mortgage process. Is that something that you felt like you were like destined to do? Like, how did you kind of navigate that to really find that that was your niche, to stick with it as long as you have, and be able to do it in the way that you're doing in a different way? Like I said, fun and educational.
So I really have two hats right now. So I'm a full-time loan officer in 28 years, and I work for a company called Legacy Mutual Mortgage. I don't own that company. I'm very gladly not in charge. Okay. I gave up being in charge many, many years ago when I realized, listen, I'm going to make more money working for someone else than worrying about paying the bill. That's like a whole other conversation, girl. Cause that was when I hit rock bottom. I was like, I cannot do this by myself anymore. Like, I just need to go work for someone and have them take care of me. Okay. And I can just do what I do best. So, that's my mortgage person hat. And then about 4 or 5 years ago, I just thought, let me develop a brand, and I developed Loan with Jen. It just sounded easy. It's what I do. I'm a loan with Jen. So Loan with Jen on the side has developed into, now I'm developing this more educational arm. Like, I love to speak. I have my YouTube channel, Loan with Jen. Everything is Loan with Jen. So that's kind of who I am online, Loan with Jen. I don't know. It just kind of happened by accident. I just knew that I wanted to do something more. And now at this later part of my career, I don't know. I just love to give people what I say, real facts, no BS. So it's just kind of morphed into this kind of legacy mode. Like, I'm not going to do mortgages forever. I mean, I don't know how much longer I'll do them until I just don't enjoy it anymore. But what I really, really enjoy is teaching. I really enjoy coaching, call me the homeowner's coach or the homeowner's best friend or whatever. I want to teach homeowners how to really not get screwed, if I can say it, like how to know there's so much stuff online and there's so much noise that I see now more than ever that homeowners now, home buyers,
Yeah.
they're more confused than ever, more confused than ever.
Yeah.
Because they have oh, my cousin's sister's brother told me that blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God,
I know.
and it's just completely out in Mars somewhere. And I have to help, lovingly bring them down to what the facts are and get them focused on that. But it's all over the place. And so that's why I started my YouTube channel. So it started with that. And now it's going to morph into some other things, the online class and some other things. But my core true love is originating loans, helping the realtors with their clients, and then of course our past clients. I mean, that's the main of what I do every single day.
Yeah.
And then everything else that I do really, really accentuates that, really complements that. So, anyway, so that's that.
I love that you talked about, because I feel like you are an authority in that space. Like, if I feel like I really need the facts, the real facts, no BS, I'm going to go to Jen, and you should too, because she knows her stuff, but also that personable legacy piece of Loan with Jen, educating people, coaching, now having your book and be able to tell your story there. I love that. And so I'm inspired by you, Jen. I love that you continue to
Thank
share
you.
and give. So glad we connected. I'm so glad to have you on the upcoming episode of the Modern Mompreneur podcast. So
I'm so excited. Friday, right?
Friday is going to drop at 9 a.m. So you guys make sure you check it out. I will share it. Jim will share it. It's going to be a great story, diving more into Big Hug, Big Kiss, and even more of what she shared today. So I love that this last quote in your book. I want to read this before we exit out. It says that you have blessings to give the world, and by holding back, you are keeping those blessings hidden. The world needs you to contribute and flourish so that you can help make yours a better place. Big hug, big kiss to you and your journey. So with that, you guys, wanted to just share that with you. Whatever you have in you, whether it's loan origination, productivity coaching, or whatever else, know that you have a gift, and look how it can flourish. I mean, look how much Jen has helped her community, and she continues to do so. So I love your story, Jen, and you guys support her. Loan with Jen, Legacy Mutual. If you need any mortgage advice, she's the one to go to. And just want to thank you for being on this platform, and of course, connecting with me and being a guest on the Modern Mompreneur podcast.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Big hug, big kiss to you, girl. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you, guys.